What's up, you guys? This is Devin with CFX Studios, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about one new camera that Canon is supposed to be coming out with in 2021 based off of what Canon Rumors has said. Now, yes, we've been talking about the Eos-r5, we've been talking about the Eos-r6, but there's a new camera coming out called the Eos-r1, supposedly, like Canon Rumors says. Now, with this Eos-r1 coming out, I'm curious as to... they've already been blowing our minds with just the rumors for the Eos-r5, but this Eos-r1 is supposed to mimic the 1D because of the naming. It's supposed to be a 1. Canon does not change. I mean, think about it in the past. You had the 1D, you had the 1DS. These were all the top of the line. Then you had the 1DX, and now we have the Eos-r1. It stands to believe that this is going to be the top of the line. But let's talk about some of those specs for this camera. Alright, so they haven't came out with any official specs. I'm just speculating. So don't hammer me in the comments, this is not really what's coming out. I'm guessing, and it's always fun for me to guess. So if you're not used to this channel, you're used to it now. I like to guess what's coming out next because that will basically tell me how to budget my money, because I really want to upgrade from the 5D Mark II. Here we go with the Eos-r1. The specs that I think they're going to have is 20 megapixel camera. I think it's going to be a 20 megapixel camera. In years past, 20 megapixels seems to be the sweet spot for all of the flagship cameras for Canon as far as the ratio of speed to memory consumption. So 20 megapixels is what, you know, the people who shoot with these cameras that shoot the Olympics and all these other fast moving, you know, subject events and genres of photography are used to. So 20 megapixels it is. I also think this is going to have dual processors in there. And you might be saying, that's interesting. Why would you say that? Because the 7D and the 1DX had dual processors in it. This is Canon's go-to technique to add speed to their cameras. I'm not surprised that the Eos-R didn't have dual processors in there, because Canon probably didn't know how to balance it out at the time. They were really just trying to get a camera out to suffice the Sony battle there. Like Canon and Nikon and Sony battling each other for the mirrorless camera war. But now that Canon has put their foot in the game with the Eos-R, they've been dabbling with that Eos-R, modifying it to the extent, because they already have a base. They have a solid base at that. The Eos-R is a pretty decent camera, so they have a solid base to work on. Now they have to, all they have to do is modify it. That's really how technology works. People don't recreate the wheel when it comes to technology. So I'm pretty sure they modified the Eos-R with the 20 megapixel sensor. It was probably easier for them to make a 20 megapixel sensor because they've already made a 30 megapixel sensor for the Eos-R already. So making a smaller megapixels and having that much more ability to process other things makes it easier for you to make a new Eos-R or 1D equivalent. Because think about it, the Eos-R is processing a lot of memory at 30 megapixels, even raw. But if you go down to 20 megapixels, it's processing less memory, it's less likely to heat up, you can do more with that camera. And with this new invention of the CF Express card, or whatever it is, it's way faster than whatever the Eos-R could do. So not only are you making more space and freeing up that camera's ability to process, you can put in 2 processors like you used to, and then on top of that you can put a faster card in there that will extremely boost the camera's ability to take pictures, whether it be 20 frames a second, 25 frames a second. We're now getting to video frame rates on these cameras, but I think it's really going to be that fast and that repetitive. And based off of the 1DX Mark III and what it did with the CF Express card and dual CF Express cards, they look at Jared Pollin's video on the 1DX Mark III versus the A9, and you'll see that that camera does not slow down for anything. It doesn't really even, I don't even think it even has a buffer anymore on it. But that's what this new R1 is going to be like. And unlike the Eos-R and the Eos-RP and all of these smaller cameras that really encourage people to buy into Canon because that's what the sales are, the EOS, the 1D equivalent, the Eos-R1 is not bogged down by those type of stipulations. Like, Canon is not trying to sell this to the people who are buying the cheaper cameras. They are selling these to the people who want no holds barred, like everything, no restrictions on this camera. So if it needs to be a little bit bigger to make it work, they will. So that will introduce a battery grip. That will help out the spacing for the dual processors. The camera would no longer overheat or be subject to overheat because it's not processing as much memory. And this also makes room for dual card slots, dual CF Express card slots to be specific. And that's pretty much what I think the Eos-r would have in it. I don't think this is going to be it's going to be a surprising camera, but as far as a manufacturing standpoint is concerned, it's not hard to really make something like that after you've already made the 1DX Mark III and you've made the Eos-r, put them together, and you've made a greater camera. You see what I'm saying? Because the Eos-r takes a lot more memory in the R5, what they are speculating on right now as the rumored next camera to come out. It takes a lot of memory with 8K and all this stuff. That stuff takes a lot of memory. So if they're really going to use these dual processors in here like they used to, because they have never in recent history, they have never not done a dual processor in a 14 plus frames per second camera. So those are my thoughts on the Eos-r. What do you think? What do you think it's going to come out with? What do you think the specs are going to be for the Eos-r? Stay tuned for the next episode, guys.